Good morning. Little fella. James, let's forget about the last 2 years, let's think about the future. What was it like to get on that Yamaha R1 Superbike? What for you? Was it a nice refreshing change? Was it something you enjoyed? What was it like jumping on the Superbike?
The biggest thing for me was riding the bike that had just won the World Championship and knowing that it's a bike that can win races. That's what I was excited about. But if I knew I was going to be returning to Superbike at any point, I'm pleased I'm doing it kind of sooner rather than later, because the difference between a GP bike now and a Superbike is really, really different. And I've been kind of, trying to mould myself as a MotoGP rider for the last 2 years. And now riding that Superbike again, I've just realised, because I've just about forgotten what a Superbike felt like, and now riding at Portimao, I'm pleased I'm going back now, because if I'd have developed my riding again even more for MotoGP, it's quite a lot different to World Superbikes.
So it's something you feel like you can slot back into and pick up where you left off on
I've got, we only had two, because this is going to be the shortest winter for me, because MotoGP finishes later than Superbike, and World Superbike starts a lot earlier. Yeah. So it's going to be a really short winter, and they only had two scheduled tests planned, one in Portimao in January, and then there's one the week before the first race in Phillip Island. Well, I said the week before the first race in Phillip Island, you can have a bit of a rundown.
It's too late to do anything.
It's too late to develop the bike. So we've got one on the 9th and 10th of this month, which I've asked the leather company to make one without holes in, because I think it's going to be a bit cold. So
where is it? Where's that test?
In Valencia.
Okay.
But you know what south of Spain's like at this time of year? It can be.
I
was going to say as bad as the Aleman, but no, maybe not as bad as the Aleman, but it can be cold.
We've had a lot of Grand Prix riders, Superbike riders up here over the course of the past week, and pretty much every one of them said the crew, the team that they work with is so important. I know already you've got some familiar faces in the Belgarda lineup. For you, is that really important for next year?
Yeah, it is. None of my guys from Tech Trois are coming, but I had a sniff of the GSE Racing, unfortunately, going to pull out of the British Superbikes, which is a real shame for the championship. And obviously I worked with those guys for 3 years, so as soon as I found out that was a possibility, I rang Colin Wright, who was the manager of the team, and said if there is any personnel which is going to be available, and obviously he was keen as well to keep the guys in a job. So I've got a guy called Frankie, who was a young kid actually when I first joined in 2001, and he was the clumsy kid of the paddock and always knocking things over. And I asked Colin who the best guy was, or one of the best guys in the team, and he did mention Frankie's name. And I said, what? The guy that spilt coke down his back when he answered his phone and things like that. I tested with him in Portimao, and fair play to him, in whatever it's been, 6 or 7 years, he's come on a train.
I've got to say, we've been seeing him working for the last 3 or 4 years in BSB, and he's a top man now. Whatever he was like before he's come on.
Well, he's just won the championship with Leon Camier, and he used to be the telemetry guy.
Yeah.
But obviously, studying the telemetry for so long, he's obviously got a good understanding of the chassis and everything else now. So he's really come on good.
What's the bike like? You've jumped on a bike that's just won the World Championship. To me, I've got to be honest with you, it's a really good bike. Obviously, you can't do it at that level without the bike and the team that works. But I don't see it as, head and shoulders better than any other bike out there. I think it's good, but I don't think I think Speeds has made it look quite exceptionally.
He has, yeah. He's ridden really well on it, because it's not quicker than anything.
No, it's
the Aprilia and the BMW I think are slightly quicker.
Yeah.
But it's a match for it, and I think with that cross-plane crankshaft, I think it has advantages in more places than not, but it does have its disadvantages in others. So I tested the back at Portimao, and God, it was a pig of a track to learn, because I'd never been there before. We always go to Estoril in Portugal, so to learn the bike on that track, the undulation is just unbelievable. So it was a tough test, but I did 207 laps in 2 days, so it was a good test. So we've got some work to do on the bike, but I don't think it was good, because when Ben first came into World Superbikes, he won straight away, and they were reluctant to change anything on it because it was quick straight away. And when something's going well, you don't want to change much, do you?
Not too far, do you?
No, and that's what's happened. So they haven't really developed the bike, because it was brand new, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The whole bike, the engine concept and everything. So it has got a lot of room for improvement, and the guys have been busy back at the workshop, and we do realise we need to get a bit more power compared to the Honda and the Aprilia and the BMW, but it's certainly a bike that's going to be competitive.
You've won the championship a couple of times, so you obviously know how to get that job done. We've got 7 Brits in total on factory machines now. Out of the other Brits, who do you think will be your main headache, your main challenge?
I think they're all going to be a bloody headache. But it's just great, you know, because they've all got good bikes. Every one of us has got a good bike. I'm not sure the situation on Shane Byrne yet.
Yeah, Altea Ducati, and yeah, from what I understand, it'll be a reasonable level.
Is that with Checker, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
That was Checker.
Yeah.
So, you know, I believe the Altea team put a good bike out there. They have done in Supersport in the past. So, but yeah, Camille's just signed for Aprilia. I'm on the factory Yamaha, and you've got Johnny Ray on the Honda, and
Tom Sykes, Kawasaki.
Yeah, I think the podium is going to be full of us quite regularly.
Yeah.
I think there's only Harger and Fabrizio to beat us, really.
They're the other 2 men, I think.
Yeah, because Checker on that satellite Ducati, you never know. And who else is there really that challenged at the front other than Harger? Yeah, so it's going to be a little mini British Superbike Championship, really.
If you don't mind me saying it, this is a real compliment. You won the championship last time on a bike that was, at times, it looked almost unrideable. I remember watching you at Valencia, and the thing was a pig. I wouldn't. The Tenkate Honda you had at the time was, you won despite the bike, actually, not with the bike.
Well, there was particular tracks because we didn't have any electronics on it.
No.
And it was 3,450 brake horsepower with no electronics.
Yeah.
And because of that, you know what it's like. If you've got a bike underpowered, the chassis feels mega, doesn't it? And it goes around on rails. Yeah. And the more power you put on it, it just gets a lot more physical. And the bike does things that you don't want it to do. And that was what the Tenkate Halt was. But because it had plenty of power, if I could just get it through the corner and get it out, then I was in with a shout. Yeah. But Valencia, with a lot of corners, all of a sudden you had a few problems. But it was only Valencia and Misano.
They were terrible.
That had a lot of corners on it.
Yeah. Should you ask some questions?
Yeah.
I know this man's time's limited. Stick your hand up if you've got a question for James.
Or, indeed, if you just want a cap. Wait a minute.
James, how's your relationship with Colin Edwards now?
It's good. I was disappointed at the level it got to with in the press and out in the public that how bad the relationship was supposedly. The simple factor was that Colin's chief engineer, he didn't want to work with Colin anymore, and he wanted to change, and he had a good offer from another manufacturer, and I was having problems with my communication with Guy Coulon. So basically, because that option came up that he was going to change, I asked the Hervé Pontral of the team manager if the option was to just switch. Well, the team Hervé said that would be possible if Gary tells Colin. Gary did tell Colin, and obviously then it all kicked off in the winter where the press said I'd pinched him, but it just wasn't the case. And I know Colin, but then Colin doesn't sit on the fence. He's got no filter, has he, old Colin? So, and he said a few things about me because of the press, basically. But the press aren't stupid. They know if they ring Colin Edwards up, they're going to get a 4-page spread. And they'd have asked the questions like, what do you think about James pinching your mechanic? Well, if they'd have asked that, he'd have answered the question. Not thinking about what the truth is, he'd have just answered the question. So that's why it was all a massive issue. But as soon as the first race came in, I went round to Colin's motorhome and we chatted about it, and we were fine ever since. But just disappointing that it got to the level it did from what it was. Him and his chief engineer had a bit of a rut, obviously, you can imagine. But actually, for me and Colin to fall out, there was no reason to.
It's a chap.
I'm looking.
Niall.
Yeah, what do you think of Ben's speed?
I think he's done fantastically well in his opening season in World Superbike. To win that in your rookie season is an amazing achievement, and he deserved the ride in MotoGP. Whether he deserved mine's another matter.
But we don't think so.
But he deserved a place. And there's a new rule in MotoGP now where you can't go straight into a factory team. You have to go into a satellite team, and obviously, as we know, Yamaha only have one satellite team. So it's going to be me or Colin that goes. Colin's ridden his best I think he's ever ridden in his career for the last 2 years, and unfortunately my job was up for grabs with the crashes and everything else and a bit of inconsistency. It cost me. I think a little bit different timing, and without a Ben Spies around, you know, my job wouldn't have been under threat at all. But unfortunately that was the case. But he did deserve to be in there. And